David Lynam.
Well, it's good to be here. What an intro.
Here we are. That's how I do things. Sometimes I'll go like super serious and I'll be like, welcome to the Over the Line podcast. We're here to talk about poop and whatever.
Look, usually people bring up my credits like premature ejaculation state champ 2 years in a row. Nobody wants to bring that up before they announce my name on this podcast.
Well, we didn't know about that, so that's why we brought you here. We want to find out that information.
I knew about it. I was there.
Yeah. It's written on a lot of bathroom walls, man. I'll be honest with you, Andrew.
I got, when I put it out on the radio that you were coming on, and we kind of just did this on a whim, the person that first suggested me bring you on here was Big John, who has done one of your comedy deals that you're doing around Birmingham. And I was like, that's a pretty good idea. I had already reached out to Cassio, good friend of yours, to see if he wanted to come on. But for some reason, I thought it'd be easier to get him on than you because every time I look at Facebook, you're doing something and you're out and about, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I hit up Cassio, and he's like, I'd love to do it, and then just never responded to me again. I was like, maybe I'll give David a try.
Well, hey, Cassio, you're hearing this now, buddy. Respond to your phone calls.
Yeah. Well, I don't have his number. I have to hit him up on Instagram. If he's like me, he never checks those messages.
I'll get him down here. He's a riot. He's a good podcaster too. I mean, he's got broadcasting down to an art.
Yeah.
He likes to have little 5 minute bursts because that's what radio is,
Right.
You build up, boom, commercial break.
Yep.
Or a song or whatever. That's how you do morning radio. So having him on our podcast is funny. He can do long form now, and he's just watching him acclimate to that. It's pretty funny.
He's so funny. I mean, I feel like I've been listening to him since I was a kid. I don't know. When did he first start in radio?
I was there for one of his first days up at Rick and Bubba. They started out, I guess, which, by the way, Rick and Bubba announcing their retirement. So
very sad.
End
very
of an
sad.
era. He when he first started radio, this is a great story about how I met him. I met him at a remote. It's Zayden's Hamburgers on 280. And I just went up to shake his hand, and he just came up and just kind of he did that. What do they do in Talladega Nights where he's like getting autograph mode? He's just like
right.
sign my head, move me along. He doesn't even remember meeting me for the first time. I was like, yeah, you wouldn't, because I was in a cattle call line where I just wanted to shake your hand, and you're like, you got anything you want me to sign? I was like, no, buddy, I didn't need you to sign anything.
That's funny. But that's funny. How old is he at that time?
God, there's no telling. 21, maybe.
Just a baby.
Yeah, he's a baby. Still had hair on his head. Now he looks like Mr. Clean with allergic reaction to a bee sting.
What does he call himself? Mr. Mashed Potatoes or something?
Oh yeah.
What is that?
I don't know. I haven't heard that, but he's definitely a fan of mashed potatoes. He asks for it in every restaurant. It's kind of like a prerequisite if we're going somewhere to eat.
I kind of had a similar thing happen with the guy that does the afternoons. He's kind of the king of political talk radio in Alabama, Leland Way, and I was working, and you may remember this, at a small station in Anniston. I had you on that show one time when you had a show at the Smoking Moose.
Yeah, Smoking Moose. God, man, you've got a great memory. You haven't done half the drugs I have.
Yes. You'd be surprised. But, so I was at that small station. I mean, when you were promoting your show on that station, you were doing it for nothing because, again, 1,000 watt, nobody was listening to that station. Mm-hmm. But when I was there, somehow I got a filling gig for Leland here in Birmingham, and I filled in for him 3 or 4 times, and he seemed to like me or whatever, but I didn't meet him in person. So finally, he was at a radio event, and I was like, okay, I'm finally going to go meet this guy I've been filling in for, and I have to stand in line with the rest of the listeners, just like you did with Cassio, and wait for my turn to meet the guy that I've been doing his job for him. He's like, oh, yeah, it's great to meet you. And now we're big buddies, but it was
you have to remind him of that all the time?
Oh, yeah.
How that first interaction went?
I bring it up on a regular basis.
I did, too. When Cassio first started comedy, he was trying to be a comedian. And I remember going, dude, I've been hanging out with you in bars since Nam, and you're not being the guy that's funny in a bar. You just need to be yourself. And he kept going, I don't quite understand what you're saying. Now he looks back, he's like, I totally get it. And now he's like a long-form storyteller. That's his brand of comedy.
Right.
But you were up there trying to do little short bits and all that kind of stuff. Man, that ain't Cassio.
It was the radio in him.
That's what he's telling me now that I'm starting. He's giving me my own advice back to me, He's like, hey, you're trying to be Mr. You're trying to be a clever comedian, and you're just like a storytelling guy that holds conversation good.
Right.
John's the same way, your buddy John.
Mm-hmm. Big John.
Really infuriating how good John did on that first time up at my open mic. I'm really mad at him. You know why? I keep telling you I want him to come back and do it again because I know he's going to eat one soon.
Yeah.
And I want to see it. You want to see your buddies
Hey,
die
take
slow
off.
death up there. No,
Isn't it?
you want to see them bomb. It's funny to see your friends
Really?
bomb. In comedy,
God,
yes.
that'd give me so much anxiety.
No, it does when it's a stranger. Now, if I don't know you, it does give me anxiety because I don't know what's going on in your head. But a comedian knows that this is part of it. Every Chris Rock bombs, every Dave Chappelle bombs. They all go up and bomb somewhere, and they don't let you televise it, and they don't let you have your phones out. They make you put them up in a bag,
Right.
so you never hear about it. But trust and believe, I mean, top to bottom, everybody bombs. And as a comic, it is great to see a comedian bomb, like a well-established comedian bomb, because it didn't mean you give up. You just got to try it and learn from it.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. It's inspiring on the backside, but I remember going to that event at Zydeco, and for the guys that, I don't know that anybody bombed that night, but some of them might have gotten on the edge a little bit, and it gave me so much anxiety. I'm like you said, you don't know what's going on in their head. They could blow their brains out because they had a bad set right there on stage, and then there I am, traumatized for the rest of my life.
Well, I'm telling you, you do this, and you're talking to a ton of people right now.
Yeah.
But you don't see them. And it's I didn't realize when I played drums for 20 years what kind of comfortability that drum set provided for me. It was just like a safety blanket.
Yeah.
Because when you suck as a band, buddy, you can like divvy up the guilt. You can be like, it's a little of the bass player. It's a little, singer's a little off. It's kind of all of us, really.
Right.
When you get on stage and tell your thoughts to people and they don't find them funny, and you pause for that laughter break, and just look down and they're like, still waiting for it, buddy. Your armpit starts sweating. You will shit a circus midget.
I bet.
It is the most nerve-wracking thing, man. You do not want to live in that moment.
Oof.
And I don't know why it's funny when your friends do it, but
I kind of get that too, because in radio you've got the comfort of being in a studio. It's just you and the producer. You're behind a microphone. You don't have to look at anybody. When we do station events and I have to get on stage like an Iron City or something, I mean, I'm a nervous wreck.
Are you?
And yes,
to this day.
To this day, and they all make fun of me for it. I don't know. Like, I'm fine. I can say whatever. And
you're talking to so many more people than that every day.
I know.
So many people.
I don't know why. It just completely freaks me out.
Yeah, you're like worried about what you're wearing, like what I look like to these people and stuff like that.
Probably some of that. There's probably some childhood trauma in there somewhere.
Yeah.
But
Let's
it's
get
like
to the bottom of this right now and find out what's wrong with you.
It's like even today. So I'm doing the show and I'm in a break, and somebody from the office brings a guy in. He owns a restaurant down the street, and they're come bringing by food. Hey, we had some extra food. They probably want a shout out or whatever, which is fine. And then he sits down, and I start thinking, oh, God, he's going to be in here when I come back from this break. Like, I need this guy
one person
just
makes
one
you
person.
nervous.
I'm like, and I'm thanking him profusely for the food. I'm like, thank you so much. This looks delicious.
Yeah, we enjoyed having you as you're patting him on the back.
So the music's playing. I'm pulling my mic down slowly, and I'm like reaching out for the fist bumps. Good to see you, buddy. And then finally he got the picture, and he got it and left. Super nice guy, but I don't hardly do guest on the radio just because I don't know. I'm more comfortable doing guest here than I am on the radio, but
sure.
I don't know what it is.
And you don't have to worry about what you say here. I mean,
that's true.
It's not live, so that's another big benefit to podcasting.
Yeah,
and podcasting is an art, man. We have comedians on our podcast sometimes that are not podcasters; they're comedians, and so they don't understand podcasting is more about this conversation, not about bragging all of your accomplishments. I won't list the comics that have done that, but we now look for comics that know how to podcast.
Right.
And Chris Hansen's another guy. He's been on TV. He knows about, you can't just arrest a pedophile and then go to commercial. You got to unpack why they're trying to touch a kid.
Oh, he goes into detail, too.
Yeah. and there would be no show if he didn't do that. It's two reasons he does it. One, to create content and stretch out the moment so you have an episode. But two, let's find out why teenage,
Glory hole Jerry.
Right. Is so interested in this. Like,
right.
What happened to them as kids that makes them want to do this? And, buddy, I watched it in person, and I'm telling you.
That's fascinating.
Nothing more exhilarating than to watch these guys that, and they are next in line to you at the bank.
Yeah, they're just regular dudes.
They're at the pump next to you at the gas station. I mean, I'm telling you some of the stuff that this guy said him and his 11-year-old son go around with prostitutes all the time. Isn't that crazy?
That's nuts.
And they couldn't nail him. They couldn't get him on the phone twice, but he was on his way. He's from California and Georgia, going to swing through Alabama. That's when they told us, when we set it up, Chris was like, let me tell you something. I was like, you think there's anybody in this neck of the woods in Blount County? And he's like, buddy, they don't come from Blount County. They come from everywhere. They'll come from here. They'll come from Georgia, Kentucky. It does not matter. Once you get them locked in with a fake conversation,
yeah,
they're coming from everywhere.
So
and he's like, he goes, here's an example, David. How far have you driven for Strange back in the day? And I was like, oh, I have driven quite a while back in the day. You're right, that is. He goes, now they're in the same boat. They'll drive that far for it as well.
Right.
So,
They're just into kids.
Right.
That's the only difference.
It's crazy, dude.
So to set the stage here, and I'm gonna move David a little bit just to make sure we've got him in the middle. Here we go. Look
at this pro operation, man. Your cameraman is so slim, I don't even see him behind the camera.
He's invisible. So to set the stage when it comes to the Chris Hansen deal, for people that don't know, the True Blue, I've talked about it on the radio several times because my wife and I were so fascinated. We watched it all in like 7 seasons in like 2 weeks.
Oh, it's great, engaging.
They did a part of their series in Cleveland, Alabama, which is, about 45 minutes an hour from us, and actually in kind of my hometown, and did 3 different episodes. I don't know if they did more than that, but you guys, you're part of a podcast called the X5 Podcast.
That's right.
And you can, y'all have some pretty big names on there, which we'll get into in a minute. But you had Chris Hansen and Sheriff Mark Moon, Blount County Sheriffs, and Sheriff Chris Swanson of the Genesee County Sheriffs. Now, I had been following Chris Swanson before I ever knew he teamed up with Chris Hansen, just because I saw him on social media and I thought he was a character. I was like, this guy's pretty cool. So I started following him. I obviously knew Mark Moon, and I knew Chris Hansen from back in the day.
Mark Moon didn't know Chris Hansen before we introduced.
Really?
Isn't that crazy?
Everybody knows Chris Hansen.
I was like, how unplugged are you from this? Like, you're in law enforcement. It'd be weird if I didn't know him, but you not know him is really weird.
Well, originally, when we got locked into watching this, I pitched it to Tony and everybody else, and I'm like, we got to figure out how to get Chris Hansen and Mark Moon on the show. And I called the talent agency and all this kind of stuff. Nobody ever called me back. I was like, well, maybe I could just call Mark Moon and have him on the show. And then we decided just to not do any of that. And then I saw that he was on with you, and I was like, man, well, they were in town at one point. Did they do that podcast while they were in town for the Stings?
It's kind of weird. They did a podcast with us, and we agreed, hey, we've got a house pretty close by that we can do a Sting out of. Mm-hmm. And we have it set up for guests that come in from out of town. Maybe they're coming in a night early and they're going to be on the pod. We'll put them up in that house.
Wait, this was y'all's house?
Yeah, it's a house owned by the guy that heads up our podcast.
Oh, wow.
And so it's in a remote location kind of close to the studio where we can. So we said we've got a house we can operate from. We're friends. He's friends with all the Blount County sheriffs and everybody around there.
Yeah.
And he talked to him and set it up. So that first podcast we did, we set it up. Then the next time he came to town was to prep the house and get set up, because they come in a week before and start engaging in conversation.
Mm-hmm. And they got to put cameras up and everything else in the house and all that, I guess.
Yeah, they do. And we already have some cameras rigged on the house, like security cameras. So they set up and they came in and did it. Chris flies in they only do it for 3 days. They're there for 2 to 3 days. Mm-hmm. And they're around the clock, 20 hours a day doing it.
Right.
They sleep for like 4 hours, wake up, and they're back. They have chatters. They have decoys. The house is littered. When you see that room, that square room of them, when he walks in, the house is completely packed. And what Sheriff Moon let him do that most sheriffs will not is they'll let him go out there unarmed, completely without anything, and just on the chance, hoping that the person doesn't have a gun and pulls it out and shoots him as soon as he sees him. But they are behind that wall, buddy. It is littered with sheriff departments, female decoy. They got a male decoy, and they have it's crazy.
Well, when you watch the Polk County episodes with Sheriff Grady Judd, he doesn't let Chris Hansen get him first. I actually got upset with that. I'm like, come on, we want to see Chris talk to the guy first.
It does kind of feel like they're going, I want to be on TV too.
The guys, the pedophiles think that they're going to be able to get out of it. They're going to talk their way out of it with Chris Hansen, and he's just going to let them be, hey, we're just going to embarrass you on TV and you can go on. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm sorry. And then
I was there when the guy arrested that worked for American Airlines. And he... it's funny. They will do crazy stuff. They will tell you they're 45 minutes away, and they're there. They're driving in front, and they're just looking at the house to make sure. We had one guy that was a private investigator for a living.
Yeah.
And so before he looked up the house and started looking up the owners.
I remember.
And
he
then,
explained that on the show too.
Yeah, he was like, and he found out that it was still under the prior owner's name, and so it matched. So, man, I'm
That's
telling you,
wild, dude.
I had to go to a Tool concert, and I missed the next one that night. They busted another guy that night, and he was real aggressive. He tried to run on him, but that's what those.
Yeah,
cops,
he actually had a gun on him too. That other guy, older guy.
Oh, that was the first one. No, this was the second guy. It looked like he was on steroids, but they did 3. They got 3. They got 1 a day. Now some days they'll have 8 in a day, and they'll get them arrested, and they have to reset immediately because the guy's 20 minutes out.
That's so wild. It's exhausting to chase pedophiles, I'm sure.
Dude, I'm telling you, nothing's more exciting in the world. And you also feel like you're doing something. You're obviously helping society.
Yeah, you're doing good.
For every one guy you bust, you save like 20 to 30 children from that happening to.
Absolutely.
So it's great. It's some of the most exhilarating guests
That's wild. That's
we've
wild.
had, dude. It's fun.
Yeah, so I saw you guys had him on. You guys had a ton of people on, which
the Moonshiners. We had those Moonshiners guys.
Yes, I saw that the other day.
I didn't know anything about moonshining, dude.
Moonshiners, Chris Hansen. Who's some of the other people you've had on?
Big Jay Okerson.
Are you a staple on most of the podcasts? Like,
Yeah,
how does that work?
Yeah, I'm a co-host. When I can be there, I'll be there. I'm there. You know, I live 45 minutes from the place, but me and Cassio are staples, and I mean, everybody's really a staple. If one of us is gone, they will continue and do the podcast. If it's a big guest, you know, if the person only has that day available, because that's another problem. Some of these big guests we got yesterday we did Tom Zutaut, which was who Pete Davidson played in The Dirt.
Yeah, you canceled on me for that guy.
Yeah, that's right. I big dicked him.
We're flexible. It's fine. It's fine.
That's right.
Actually, I was kind of bragging about that. I was like, we got canceled on like some kind of Pete Davidson deal, so that's not a bad deal.
Dude, let me tell you, that guy is you think Motley Crue's old manager and the guy that got Guns N' Roses signed doesn't have some stories?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know who partied worse in the 80s, the wrestlers or him. Cassio tells me a story of these wrestlers, and they make Motley Crue look like a walk in the park, dude.
I got to be honest. I used to watch, growing up, I watched a lot of wrestling, like a lot of us did. Yeah, WCW, the WWF. And I'll kind of peek at it every now and then, but I don't really watch it anymore. So when I see these pictures on social media of Cassio hanging out with Sting, or like, it feels like he's constantly around, like, very prominent wrestlers, I kind of get a little jealous. I mean, there's a little nostalgia in there.
He does a podcast with a wrestler.
Who is it?
Oh my God, I knew you were going to ask that. It's a big one too.
It's a big one.
Who's the guy that does this?
That's DX, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, X-Pac, Road Dogg.
Road Dogg. That's who he
it.
does it.
Yeah,
he does a pod with Road Dogg.
Yeah, that's cool.
And we had him on our podcast, but I wasn't there that day. But yeah, I don't follow it now. But, I love hearing about the old days. Those guys in the 80s, man. I mean, there was no drug restrictions. They were going out there drunk. I mean, it was just the Wild West.
I watch a lot of these, they call them Dark Side of the Ring documentaries.
I've seen them.
So
I
good.
have watched it.
So good.
What's your favorite episode?
Oh, that's a good question.
How about The Big Flight? That's got to be top.
That's a top 3. Absolutely.
Where was that flight from?
It was from overseas. They called it the flight from hell or something. Yeah.
Dude, that was probably that's got to be the best.
Ric Flair comes out and opens his robe, and he's full blown erect, and he's like, "You get some of this."
Oh, that's like the nicest thing that went down on that. I think there was the R word.
Yeah,
that going on that. But dude, wrestling back in the day, people are so shocked when they're all dropping dead now. I was like, dude, it's amazing they made it this long.
Right.
They deserve some attaboys for making it this far.
Crazy,
CTE
man.
And all the chairs over the back of the head. I used to look at those magazines when they come out. How old are you now?
38.
Oh, okay. So do you remember Circus Magazine and you don't remember the old 80s
I remember
rock
Circus,
magazine.
yeah.
You do remember? Man, magazines were such a thing back in the day, but now when you bring them up, I feel like if there's anybody still alive that watched, that looked at magazines.
What was Circus Magazine? Was it a wrestling thing?
Oh, no, it was like 80s hair bands.
Oh, okay.
It kept up with Ozzy and all that. There was always crazy pictures of him when he bit the head off a bat. There's like a shot of him with blood coming down his chin.
Yeah, classic. Total classic.
I don't know where I was going with that because I've got ADD. Like, I'm unmedicated and undiagnosed, but as your viewers and listeners will attest to, I definitely am afflicted.
Well, we told you about John Bird, who is our producer. You'd really like the guy. Super awesome guy, but he is all all over the map, to the point that sometimes he will come dressed as different characters. Like, we don't know what we're going to get when John Bird comes. What was it? We did a live podcast Monday, and he came in swimming trunks, no shoes, Hawaiian shirt, sunscreen on his nose, and glasses. And we're like, what are you doing? And he puts his feet up on the table. Again, no shoes. It's like right in my face. I'm like, what are you doing?
Your cameraman must have loved that.
Yeah.
He looked like Jack Black off Tropic Thunder. With
Oh,
the
my
hair and
God. What
everything.
he's like, in
man.
whiteface, though?
It was crazy. Tony, you could actually probably, well, no, I'm not going to pull it up. I was going to show you the clip of it. I'll show you after the show.
Yeah, I definitely need to see it. Let me just tell you something. I was very, very overwhelmed with how nice this studio is.
Really?
Yes, this is really nice. And we have a nice studio, too, but I just assume that every other podcast studio I'm going to go into is going to be just what I would decorate a studio like, and that's just a mic and no consideration for all this in the background. This is really nice.
Well, you kind of gave me some insight on what you guys do over there at X5, and I was like, oh, he's going to come in here and be like, small time podcast here. But you were pleasantly surprised. You said it was
absolutely.
nice.
Isn't podcasting fun? Like, you can have long form conversations on
Yes.
here and not be constricted.
Yes.
Not be dictated by advertisers until they jump on board and start telling you what to do. Then you're like, well, we need to consider, BetterHelp is a really nice one to have here on board.
Right. Yeah, that'll happen. It's I don't know. You're not constricted by commercial break. That's my biggest obstacle is commercial breaks on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
I've been fortunate enough to not be told what I can and can't say, and especially what I need to say or what direction I need to go. And it's a wonder that hasn't happened yet, because I'm the guy that's always pushing the limits, saying things that other hosts are like, I wouldn't do that. And I just, as long as you're making money, bringing in advertisers.
That's why radio was invented. It was invented by corporate America to sell advertising. That's what started it, and that's what it's been the basis of ever since it started. So
everything's about money.
It really is, but that's where podcasting erupted from. I remember Howard Stern even used to make fun of podcasting.
Yeah, I remember.
And now he has to, he may not do it publicly, but he has to admit on some level that that's what the market has evolved into is mostly podcasting.
Well, Howard Stern is, and by the way, my phrase on the radio is "Hey now," and it's kind of an homage to Howard.
Him, yeah.
But it breaks my heart.
None of us are here, by the way, without him.
That's true. That is
especially at this
true.
table.
Yes, it just breaks my heart to what Howard Stern is now, because he was, and I guess in a sense is still the king, but I feel like he's just gone down this weird road, and some of it is
absolutely has. I don't listen to him anymore, and we had Shuley on. And Shuley can give you a whole background of how he was just the guy for a certain era. And that's all you had to be revolutionary.
Right.
He did what he was supposed to do, and he can do whatever he wants now. Of course, it would be retarded for him to be, can't say that probably, but it would be crazy for him to be throwing baloney on girls' asses at his age now.
Yeah,
so you have
weird.
to evolve into who he is and just cherry pick the big guests. And whether or not he comes to the studio or not, that's his own quirkiness about cleanliness and all that kind of stuff. And he's a germaphobe. But that's who we all evolve into, What I'm telling you, the 5 minutes I'm doing at Mike's right now, I will be mortified at in 3 months. I'll be like, I can't believe I was saying that.
Yeah, I listen back to some old shows too. Plus, with Howard Stern, if he's in the studio throwing baloney at girls' asses, then Chris
That
Hansen,
are 18 years old.
That 18 years old Chris Hansen walks in, asking him to have a seat.
Yeah.
We can't have that.
No,
So,
but he's so, I was a Howard Stern fan for so long.
No, me too.
And I jumped off board right when he just started, I think when he left the studio is when I unsubscribed, is when he left the studio and started doing it from his house.
How did you feel about, by the way, this was well before I was in radio, but when they first played you guys on Lynam on Sirius XM,
let me tell you
I was
something.
like, wow.
Bands that have had their stuff on radio, buddy, when you hear your song on radio, it just hits different.
On
buddy.
satellite radio,
and I'm not kidding. They compress it different, and you've been listening to that album throughout the mixing, mastering stages, and you've heard that song so many times, and every time you hear it in a different format, it's different. When it first comes on the radio, it's a new, totally different way of hearing it, because the way y'all compress at the station, the way you compress everybody's voice and everything in general, your engineer controls how everything comes out of that station, And that's the way it is with music too. The compression of radio makes your song sound cooler. And
It's
it is
magical.
Yeah, it is. It is. And Lynam was never super successful. You take Alabama.
In my eyes, they were.
Of course.
I always viewed
And
you
you're
guys
from
as
where?
like
In
rock
Alabama.
stars. That's true.
That's right. And we in Alabama we are very successful.
Y'all were the band in Alabama for
And we
for
got
a
a
period
taste
of
of
time.
success everywhere. We played in different countries and stuff. And what we saw was enough success to know what it feels like to be a household name. Like we could see how it could be to be a Garth Brooks, to be a Bon Jovi, to be any of these acts that do arenas and up. We could see how it would be to do that, and how would we would do things different. We always had talks about putting tickets on sale a year in advance and letting that money just sit in our account and accrue interest. And we always had these plans. We were ready for the next step.
Y'all were well into it where you guys didn't have to have day jobs. Y'all were on the road constantly.
That's what's so crazy about me doing comedy now is I bought my house playing music, and now I can pursue comedy.
Yeah.
I own a couple of businesses. I own a landscaping business. We'll get into that.
Yeah, we got to get into that.
And then, of course, doing the X-File podcast is Charlie's been great to me, and we've grown that thing to over 100,000 subscribers. So we're killing it on that as well. And, it's one of those build it and they will come, You just do a good job, and if your numbers don't grow, you start going back to the drawing board and go, how can we improve this? Who could we bring on that can bump it up and make it better? And, because I had to learn how to podcast, I'm having to learn how to, just like I'm having to learn how to do comedy. And just like I had to learn how to do drums, let me tell y'all something. I was terrible when I first started. On our first album, that's not even me playing.
We had a listener reach out to us today and
tell you that?
He
didn't even play on his own album.
No. They said that you were the best drummer in the world. This texter said, I don't remember the name, but
I was Adela Lynam. My mom is probably.
Yeah, it was probably somebody, one of your family members.
I can tell you this. I remember our first album, we were recording the drums, and I was messing up so bad. And the producer, he was brutal. I mean, he's a great producer, Jason Elgin. Shout out if you're listening. He's from Birmingham here. When I would finish a track, I'm downstairs in an isolated room by myself. He's upstairs in the studio. I've got headphones on like this, and I would finish a track, and you'd hear the talkback mic come on and go, you think that was good?
You don't want to hear that.
And so you don't know how to answer that as a rookie drummer because you're playing with a click track, something I was not used to.
Right.
I was not good enough to even be doing that. I shouldn't have been there. And I'd be like, in my head, I go, it felt kind of good, but I know if he's asking me that, I've got to answer like, no, let me try it again. So I'll be like, let me try it again. And we keep trying it, couldn't get it. And I know in the back of my head, this is costing him money. This time is money when you're in the studio.
That's a lot of pressure too.
And he is like, hey buddy, we're just going to call somebody else to come up here. And I was like, okay. And I remember going outside as a 22, 23-year-old kid and just bawling my eyes out.
Yeah.
I was crying. I called my mom sobbing going, I'm not even good enough. It's going to happen because it's my last name of the band. And that's a true story that Jacob tells people. What about how'd the band get its name? Well, Jacob's like, we're going to call it Lynam. Because you're one of the worst drummers. I mean, you're a great guy, David, but you're one of the worst drummers I've ever seen.
That's why he named it?
Yeah, he said you're going to either get better or you're going to be forced to drag your family's name through the mud the rest of our career because we got you as a drummer.
That's
so you got to
hilarious.
get better. And that is the truth. I had to get better. And
That was genius.
And it was just countless hours on stage. I was not born a good drummer.
Man, that's
I had to
pretty
become
good.
one over. And I'm telling you, they say 10,000 hours. It was about 10,000 hours.
That's
before I got
crazy. I kind of talking about the podcast stuff. I kind of did it backwards. Like I'd always, since I was a kid, wanted to be in radio growing up. Listen to people like Casio and
Me too. I've always wanted to.
Breakin' Bubba and all that. And so, what I found out, at least during this era, is that you had to go to college to even get an internship at a radio station. So everybody turned me down. I didn't go to school or whatever.
Is that true?
Somebody
want to verify that?
I don't think it's true, but
Alabama
I was always
radio.
told
They told
that.
you that,
They told
yeah.
me that, yes.
As a college recruiter told him that, you know?
And so as I grow up, I get married, we buy a house, and I take the basement and I convert it to what I think a radio studio would look like.
Yeah.
And we go in these this is circa 2007, 2008. We go in these online chat rooms, and we do a radio show. We mimic a radio show
To the people just
to the people in the chat room. Yes, and so
How do you pipe into a chat room and do that?
Well,
without taking them hostage. That's what he's doing.
That's what it is, because it's a video chat room, so you can see everybody's video, but only one person can use the mic at a time. So you would just lock onto the mic, and I would get on there and pretend like I'm a radio station, and it was like a music radio station. So I'd just be bootlegging
music. Are there tapes
music.
of this?
Yes, I've got some on.
If you don't play them back on this podcast, you ain't got a hair on your nose.
Listen, we brought it up before. If you look on,
it's got to be terrible, right?
It's bad. We had good moments because we were doing stunts where we were like tasing each other. We were waterboarding each other at one point. I think it's CAPT in Birmingham is the that's on YouTube.
Hey, let me tell you,
All
you're
one word.
very, very smart to have recorded it. You're very to have the fortitude to know that this will one day be gold.
Well, I didn't necessarily. It accidentally got on YouTube somehow, but it's only like 2 or 3 clips, and we had so much content because we had one episode where my neighbor was throwing trash over the fence in my yard, and we sent one of our buddies over into his yard while he was on the show on the phone with us and take a dump in the neighbor's yard. And this is like 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and my other buddies over there taking pictures of it and everything else. Yeah, do Captain in Birmingham, all one word.
Okay.
See if it, it's in
Captain Birmingham's going to bring up a first 48 episode, I have a feeling.
Oh, one word, I see.
Yeah, but it's Captain Birmingham, not Captain, because I didn't know how to spell back then.
Sure. You should see, I still have my
No,
AOL screen name. I still have the AOL
Well, you know what my screen name was in that chat room was Captain Charisma.
That's
Okay,
pretty good. That's not nothing to be embarrassed of. Mine was Dave the Rave. I'm 47, still rocking the Dave the Rave, by the way.
All right, so do Cap shits the bed.
Okay.
It's just one camera up in the corner.
You're
mute that till the music gets done, just so they don't ding us. And so that's me sitting on the left. I'm not even in camera.
No, of course not.
I've got the mic boom and everything, and so these are two mic. We just sit down there and
I have
drink.
to give it to you right out of the gate. Pretty good setup for what you're working with.
Is that big Pantera poster up there on the top right?
Absolutely. Is that back when they were Glam Ban or?
Yes, it was. The whole basement was covered in magazine posters. Like my wife hated it, but we had a whole setup. We were down there every night
at the time?
Yeah.
Did she let you dictate wall decor like that?
I don't think she was home. I don't know if she knew what I was doing down there.
I don't think she exists. If he's claiming he had a wife at that time and she let that fly, talk about true love. I've never seen love like that.
We're not married anymore, so it doesn't. Well,
that's
matter.
even more shocking.
But we had so much fun, and so we would just do this show, and we'd play music, and then in between songs, we'd talk, and we'd do stunts and everything else.
I love the title of it, by the way. Cap shits the bed.
This is a story. This is a story where I just talk about how I was having a dream that I was on the toilet, and then I shit in the bed. And woke up to the horror of.
It looks like you are talking.
Yeah, turn it up real quick. See if we
right.
see if we got any volume.
Awesome. Dude, I was just about to make the comment. You should have stopped by CVS and got you some Depends.
What makes it so bad is I have a pillow top Tempur-Pedic mattress.
Oh no!
I'm just picturing people in the chat room going, "What's going on in here?"
I have a big brown stain on my side.
Oh my god!
Of course, we're all lit like it.
Banana.
Yeah.
It was your ass outline.
Hey, big female demographic watching this.
Oh yeah, they were eating it up. People all over the. That was our claim to fame too, is we would talk about how people all over the country listen to our podcast. And nobody's calling this podcast, by the way. This was before podcasts.
Yeah, what did
were a
y'all
thing.
call it? Radio?
Yeah, we called it radio. It was called Captain Charisma FM. Even though it was on the internet,
that's right,
online, and so we'd stream
well
it.
Thought out, by the way.
there was, and I wanted to be in radio so bad. So I'm like, if they're not going to let me be on the radio, I'm just going to pretend to be on the radio.
Yeah,
and that actually prepared me for my first actual radio job, which was out in Anniston. It was wild.
That's great though. When you got on Anniston, I bet you couldn't tell you shit.
No, you could not.
Dude, people were like, "Hey man, I want to hang out Friday night." And you're like, "I bet you do. I'm on the radio now."
That's exactly what happened.
You look at, hey, what are you calling me for? Free concert tickets like everybody else?
we would occasionally have $25 Popeyes gift cards sometime,
know.
and I would walk around with those.
Delegate
just
those out to the people that were
The peasants.
to help you out.
Yeah, it was a big time. And again, it was 1,000-watt radio station. You can't get it smaller than
I mean,
that.
it's a coat hanger. If somebody kicked it over, there is no broadcast.
Right.
You know what
And
I'm
it was
saying?
AM. It wasn't even FM.
Oh,
at the
was it
time.
really?
Yes.
You're on AM.
This is the one I had you on when we were promoting
I
the
thought it
Smoking
was
Booth.
FM.
No. It was AM. It's tiny station. And it
Does
consisted
AM
of...
still exist? Is there an AM?
Yeah. I don't know if anybody listens to it, but it's out there. I think usually they have like kind of simulcast on most stations where it's like, this is on our FM and then there's some national deal on our AM.
It's got to be talk, though. Is there anybody really pumping music out on AM?
Can't be.
Today?
Maybe
No way.
some Spanish music. But that's about it.
There's a college kid that would take that job at an AM station.
Dude,
right
when
now.
you're searching
Overnights.
for that first radio gig, you'll take
overnights,
whatever.
AM station. What was your time slot in Aniston?
I actually, my very first one was a weekend show at like 8 a.m. on Saturdays,
I don't see how Casio does the 6.
and it was a
to 10,
sports.
Mm-mm.
Oh yeah, I can't do morning. No way.
No way.
Especially with what we do, we got to talk the entire time, talk about politics and everything else, and so I can't get I don't even get out of bed till 8 a.m. and I got an 11 o'clock show, so I don't know how the morning show people do it.
I don't either.
I just can't do it.
I don't see either. So your first gig you're doing, your time slot is, what is it?
8. I guess like 8 or 9 in the morning. It was a
Okay.
sports show, and I called it Personal Foul Sports. And I would do things like every week I would take all the arrest reports of college players that had been arrested that
that's
week
genius.
and do like a sports lockup segment where I read off all the arrest reports. And then it moved to the morning show. And I was co-hosting with another guy, and then he got mad about my political views, and he quit. And then I took over that morning show, and I stayed at that until I came back to Birmingham.
Like every time you switch, you have to learn a new thing. You have to learn sports, then you have to learn politics, then you have to learn.
Yeah, it was it wasn't that hard because I was into both of those things, and I didn't care. I mean, they could have me talking about dog grooming. I was going to do it.
Right.
I was just finally
You had learned how to
glad.
fill time on a mic.
Yes, exactly. Well, the very first time I got on air, it was a disaster, and I even hit my mom up after I was done. It was only 1 hour, and I was filling in for a guy
Thank
that was
you.
in a
At
meeting.
least somebody can be vulnerable with your boy over here. I was over telling about how I'm crying. He's like,
Yes.
no, man, always been a pro. I don't know what your
It's
problem
very
is.
similar. I called my mom, who's the most supportive person in the world, and I'm like, so how was it? She's like, it was not good.
Oh, when
was
your
like,
mom, see, my mom will lie to my damn face when I eat a dick on stage. She'll be like, honey, it owned me. I thought it was hilarious. Like that. Well, the 35 other people didn't seem to think it was funny, Mom. So
Yeah.
I don't know what your problem is.
You
So
always
she
got that.
told you it was bad.
She did. But
What
she
a
did it in
good
a
mother.
nice way. She was like, it wasn't that good.
You know what my mom asked me 2 nights ago? I swear to God. She's been coming to open mics now.
Mm-hmm.
So these comics, half of them have autism, and they are like, they don't have any social cues.
Yeah.
So they're up there talking about eating ass. They're over there talking about, I mean, just horrific stuff. And my mom is front row
Ooh.
with this look on her face like, I don't know if I understand what he's saying, but I'm giving him the grin. And she came up to me and she's like, David, and she's looking left and right. And I was like, this usually means something racial out of an old person. You know, like, you know, when they're looking left and right, she goes, what is a pocket pussy? And I was like, oh. And my comic friend was sitting right next to me, CT. And I was like, CT, buddy, you can handle this one. I gotta go to the bathroom. And he's like, no. I was like, no, you wanted to be up here on the panel. This is the kind of stuff you have to answer. You have to tell my mom what a pocket pussy is. Have a good day. He's like, all right, we'll slide him. And he tried to dance around it for 2 or 3 minutes. And he was like, look, it's just a thing you hold in your hand. And he told her what it was. And she was like, I just wanted to know because so many comics reference it.
You've been talking about it all night.
I hate being behind the 8 ball and all this talk that y'all have. I want to know what the new kids call it. I was like,
Oh God, that's good. That's good. By the way, your comedy stuff. What do you call the cluster of comedy? Because you're at different spots every night of the week. It
open
seems like.
mics is what I've known. I have a few shows I run around the state because I've come in with guys that can headline, and I just, from the band world, I know countless club owners,
Right.
And they come up to me and say, I see you're doing comedy. We never told you about this because you've always been a musician, but we've always wanted to do a comedy night. So there's about 4 or 5 of those around the state. And they approached me about doing a comedy night. So I'll put together a list of, Casio, I'll have him headline because I know he can knock it out of the park.
Yeah.
So the first time I go in this club, I want them to be like, Damn, we weren't ready for that. We thought
Right.
we'd get some okay comic. We didn't ready.
Oh, he's so funny
Level the
too.
room, yeah.
I watched him at the Stardome one time, and he was opening for Mick Foley, and Mick Foley was not good at all, but Cassio killed it. He saved
That's
that
perfect.
whole show.
Because Nick Foley moved the tickets and Cassio entertained.
That's it. That's it. It was
They
perfect
just wanted
mix.
to see him, Nick Foley, Yeah, it's like that. And I've seen Cassio go up on stage. I'm not kidding y'all. I've seen him go up and never touch his material. Of the last 3 shows we've done, 2 of the shows, he never did any bits, never did any jokes of like material he has prepared.
Mm-hmm.
He just riffed with the crowd. And he had the room level. And after about 45 minutes, he hadn't even touched his bits. He was like, "That's my time, everybody. Thank you. Good night." I was like, "That's
Dang,
amazing," because
that's
I know his bits from being around him for 25 years. I know everything he's going to do, and he didn't touch any of it. And I was like, "Man."
Well, anytime you can switch it up, because I'm sure you got some repeat visitors that are coming in, and if you could give them a new routine that they didn't see last time, that's amazing.
That's what's great. We can go back to that market in 2 months and do a whole new show, and I'll be doing the same stupid dick jokes. he's rolling into new material, and I was like, man, it wasn't until I entered this profession that I really respected your art of what you do.
Right.
And I want you to know, I think you're incredible at it. You really are. And I bounce stuff off of them. Having guys like Cassio and friends of mine that are in comedy to be able, people that have been on the podcast that I can text and be like, I don't know what to do, man. What should I shoot for first? That's how I've arrived at MCing.
Yeah.
Like you go and MC events and bring out people and stuff like that. That's what I'm getting good at. Because if you can be good at that, you can learn the rest while working and getting money for it.
I never gave stand-up comedy. I told you this before the podcast. I never gave it a lot of credit. I didn't really like it all that much. And then when I went to that event with Big John, I thought it was great. If people want to find like the info on the open mic nights to see where they're at week to week, what do? They got to follow your Facebook or what?
It's Comedy Breakin is the name of it. It's an Instagram page. Everything's up on there. I run 3 in Birmingham every week. We won 3 in Birmingham and 1 down in Orange Beach, Alabama.
What about this deal at the Stardome?
This deal at the Stardome is a really big deal for comics especially, and of course people who enjoy comedy. By the way, comedy bigger than it's ever been in history.
Really?
You know what's crazy about news organizations have become so untrustable that it's sad to say most people get their commentary and get their political knowledge from comedians. Now, comedians, what they do is they make fun of everybody. Everybody gets smoked off of comedians.
Which is good.
Yeah, it's an accountability thing, and I think that's why people have become trustworthy is because they can digest news and laugh about it and see the hypocrisy of both sides.
Because the news gets boring. You need some entertainment.
And they lie
there.
to you. And the comics are going to be like, I'm not affiliated with any party, so I'll just tell you this guy seems like a good characteristic guy and that these people do crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And so comedy's bigger than it's ever been. We've created a scene here in Birmingham and here in the Southeast, really, and we're doing what's called the X5 Podcast New Face Showcase, and we're showcasing 12 comics once a month for 5 months. If you win, the person who wins each one gets $500, which is a lot of money to a comic.
Yeah,
for sure. And then they all come back to compete on the 6th month for $5,000, which is an insane amount of money. That's life-changing money to a lot of comics.
Because I'd like to go to this. The schedule is the first one on March 21st.
It is. March 21st is Thursday, and tickets, I don't know what they're charging for tickets, but you can get them free if you just use the promo code X5 Podcast.
And what about after that, after March 21st?
There'll be one in April. We haven't announced it yet.
Oh,
but there's
okay.
going to be March, April, May, June. We're going to do 5 of them, and then the 6th one will be the winners from all of them coming back to compete again.
What day of the week is that, March 21st?
It's a Thursday night.
We could probably do that.
Yeah, man. It's 7 p.m. It'll be over by 9. It's 7:30 to 9 or 9:30, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
But yeah, we
could
could do that. Cassie will be there cracking jokes in between people.
So are these going to be the same people that are coming to the open mic nights, or is it?
You definitely see some of those because we're picking some from those. We're also picking some. I mean, it's whoever submits. Some of the comics I know don't even want to submit until the last one because they want to get their best material as tight as they can get it so they have the best chance of winning. So, but there's people all around the Southeast. We thought it was just going to be Alabama. When you put up prize money like that.
They come from all over.
Oh, buddy. We got people come from Kentucky, Georgia, Mississippi.
Tony Gump, can we get you to do a stand-up routine? You used to be a funny guy.
I'll tell a quick
He
joke.
used to be a funny guy.
Yeah, you got a tight 3 on picking your nose or something. What do you?
Fart into a mic.
How about this? Why do women wear makeup and perfume?
Why?
Because they're ugly and they stink.
You'd kill it. You'd kill it.
Do you have any kids?
Not biologically, but
Step
I have-
children.
Well, no, that was just like a good dad joke. I was about to say, you seem very qualified to have spit that joke out. That was a good dad joke.
This guy right here, Tony Gump, has been raised by a mom and a dad, especially a dad that was like, it was. Can I describe your childhood as like a boot camp almost?
There was love, but yeah, you had to do what you were told. For
It
sure.
was a
narrow.
slow roll of it, too, right? You had to earn the love.
Yeah,
You gotta wash the dishes to get some love.
yeah, but it was just grooming. It was like getting you ready for life, teamwork, and you had to say sir, and you had to be respectful. It was just normal things that I knew growing up.
And it's benefited him greatly. You see, like I said, he put this podcast studio together like
I know
4
you
weeks.
work like somebody's got a gun pointed at your head in here. Jeez, it's crazy.
Well, we had to work as kids, especially if we wanted something. We weren't just bought it. We had to go.
Were y'all
earn it.
Quakers? What were y'all?
No, I was the youngest of 5, and there was just limited money at the time.
Oh, they had ran out of love when they had you. They were like, we doled that out to the previous 4.
Yeah. I was the leftovers.
Oh,
Dude,
man.
that's what's so funny about these comics at my open mics, man. So many of them. Dude, I had a comic. I swear to God, I had a comic at the Zydeco. The one you came to Zydeco, right?
Yeah.
I had a comic after Zydeco, the mic the other night, slap another comic. Now, comedians, and like y'all probably bust each other's balls pretty good, right? You'll
Yeah,
make
somewhat, yeah.
Okay, comics are vicious. And like if you're going to be a comedian, you got to be ready to take some heat. If you got a wonky eye, if you got like a lazy eye, or if you got some kind of disability, they're coming at you.
Oh,
It's like
man.
blood in the water. Don't I told one of them the other day. I said, I know you care about me, and they were like, "Why's that?" I go, "Because I told you something in confidence, and you used it against me to hurt me, and I know you well enough to know that means you love me. I know you're flawed enough to know." So these comedians, they can't joke around. The ones in the beginning, and one of them had autism, and they don't know how to joke with each other. They try it. They're like, why don't you write some better jokes? And the other one was like, why don't you quit screaming into the mic so much? And they and you can tell they're getting madder every time somebody says something. The other one gets madder and says.
And this is
something meaner.
backstage. This is not on stage.
There is no backstage at Zydeco.
Well,
It's
you know
right
what I'm
there.
saying.
Yeah. It's right after the mic, and they're bickering and bickering, and you can see somebody needs to diffuse this because it's getting heated.
Right.
And she just hauls off and slaps him.
Wow. Oh, this is a female to male slap.
Female to male, both entry level comics, both not even close to figuring out the art. Slaps him, and then he comes over to me and is like, he's holding his face, and he goes, "David, she just slapped me." And I'm breaking down the stuff, and I'm like, "Well, why are you? I didn't slap you. What are you telling me?" He goes, "This is your mic," and I said, "Buddy, my job here is to provide you a stage to get up and run people out. You know,
You're on the streets, cuz.
yeah, like this is y'all are adults." And he's like, "No, you need to do something about it, David, or I'm gonna slap her back." And I was like, "Let me tell you something, buddy." I wanted to say this, I did not. Okay, I wanted to say, buddy, just slap her back. Make me happy. I can ban both of y'all, and I don't got to deal with you anymore.
Right.
This is childish bullshit. But I said, buddy, it's not you. You're infuriating me right now. Hold me responsible. He goes, "It's your mic, David. It's your responsibility to keep comics from fighting." Nobody told me that was my job. So,
Is this somebody you knew previous to this incident?
of course.
Okay.
Of course. And I said, "I'm not dealing with it. You can go take it up with security." And security came back and was like, "Hey, buddy, we think we're going to ban her. This is the second time she's done something like this."
Oh, she's a repeat
comic.
slapper.
She threw a drink on somebody 2 weeks before.
Nice.
Another comic. So we had to ban her. But it's just that's what's so funny. You come on a night, everybody does good, funny. The next night, comics are slapping each other. 3 people eat their own dick on stage. It's
That's
like,
actually incredibly exciting. I mean, it sounds riveting.
It is. If you come to week, you never know what you're going to see. And then another week, Funny Maine Johnson to drop by, or Matt Davis to drop by, or Cassio comes in and do a
Right.
set. And people are like, "Oh shit!" All the comics get excited because somebody that knows how to do it really well comes in and does 10 minutes, and they're like, "Wow, that's something to shoot for." And it's cool to see big comics drop by and do that because That's what big comics use the room for. They got a new bit. They ain't got it finished yet, but they're about to go do a theater down somewhere in a different state. They need to get it tight. They'll come in there.
So it's just to warm it up.
It's like a gym you'd work out in.
That's pretty cool.
They go up there and work out. That's what they use a mic for.
I think what translates well, I mean, just from my observation when it came to the Zydeco deal, was when these guys would interact with the audience. But again, it was my first time in a long time being at a comedy deal, and I'm right there up front. I'm like, please don't single me out. So I'm like,
they're not good enough to roast you.
Well, I'm not making eye contact with any of them.
A lot of people won't sit up front because of that.
Yeah,
and
well,
I
that's
tell
what's
them,
villain.
I was like, these guys are scared shitless up here doing this. They ain't about to fucking talk to you. That's the last thing. If you talk to them, they might melt on stage.
Right.
They might just faint. So I tell them, sit up close. These guys are paranoid. And an experienced comic may come in and be like, "Hey, man, you look like, January 6th so-and-so." Like, they'll make a joke about how you look. But it's usually funny. It makes you laugh.
Right.
And if you like ball busting, it's usually a great one. And that's all I say. If you're going to roast me, please just make me laugh.
Right.
Some comics, I was like, hey, I told that comic that slapped the other one, I was like, hey, I'll let you host tonight and bring up a few comics, and you can bust their balls if you want to.
Yeah.
The comics are thick skin. But here's what she heard. She got up on stage and goes, "Your next comic is a cocksucker. It's Hot Dog Destroyer, everybody." I was like, that's not funny. You just called him a cocksucker and then and announced his name. And even he's the nicest guy you've ever met, by the way. He gets up on the mic, he's like, thank you. I was like, what did I do to her? Like, I was like, buddy, she just hadn't figured out hosting. It's
Oh my God.
It is a place where tomorrow's school shooters today are there doing stand up, undiagnosed, untreated, unmedicated.
We should pick a night to come to one of those and invite our listeners out.
They're so much fun, dude.
If we give our listeners enough of a heads up for a weekday event, they always complain when we do a weekday event, but if we can give them enough of a heads up, we could probably get some people out there.
You know what would be fun? I don't know if he can take the heat. What do you think? What if we have him say, hey, look, I'm going to go up there on this date, and the comics are going to roast me at the end of the show.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I don't know if he could take that.
I don't know.
You could help us write it, dude. We could write and give everybody, even his friends that are coming up there, we could have listeners roast him. Dude, it's fun, dude.
I mean,
I think it'd be funny. Yeah.
Look, he's obviously insensitive, but let me just disarm you here. It is all from a place of love. When people do that, when people make fun of me and my new kidney transplant I just had, I know it's out of love. And, buddy, they make a lot of jokes. I got off stage the other night, and I just got flustered, and I messed a bunch of jokes up. One of my buddies comes up and goes, "You forgot like half of your tags, didn't you?" And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "You should have forgotten more of them." Terrible. That was the worst set I've ever seen.
That's actually good.
Yeah, I know. So I laughed. I was like, "You're right, and that is funny."
Yeah.
And I do need to get better.
No, at the end of the day, I could do it. I think what happens in radio, and I try to keep myself in check, is you get constant positive feedback. And now being in political talk radio, you get a handful of haters that are just, they don't like you because they're on the other side of the political aisle. But we get a lot of positive feedback from the radio show. And you got to remind yourself, like, this is not the way everybody feels.
Andrew, also, quit reading your feedback.
Yeah,
Terrible for you,
but
by the way, because you're not going to, all that positive feedback goes in one ear and out the other. What he will focus on is the one asshole troll that's
yes,
like,
that's
your
it.
dog shit podcast that I just watched really made me sick to my stomach. I will tell everybody not to watch it. That will stick with him for weeks and months and years. And all the positive, by the way, over here, this much positive. Andrew's going to be focused on that negative in a shrink's office going, yeah, I don't know if you need to medicate me or what. I'm not sleeping at night. And it's like this guy who just typed some bullshit and forgot about it the second he pushed enter is stuck with him like glue for the rest of eternity.
I'd made tremendous progress where I don't respond to people on social media anymore. In the sense
that
of
takes
comments.
a lot, though.
Yes, it does. Either whether it's good or bad, I just don't respond at all. But I have caught myself on a couple of these podcasts getting in the comments and be like, you know, what did we say? We're talking about reproductive rights, and somebody's like, of course, two men talk about reproductive rights, and a woman's not there. And I'm like, there's a woman sitting over to the side. She gave us permission. Okay, shut up.
Yeah, but who cares? Like, and let me tell you something. I'm a last word guy, too. You're
Yeah.
talking to the king of last word. I
bet your wife loves that.
No, let me tell you something. There's a guy that owes me $250. I went up to a dealership, my landscaping company. $250 this guy owes me. I'm telling y'all this to let you know I'm clinically insane.
Yeah. Let's get into this because I wanted to talk to you about it. Landscaping company, Lawn Rangers.
That's right.
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 You've been doing it a while.
I have. I started it when my son was born 12 years ago.
And you have people that, you're just going on a handshake,
look,
right?
You think doing landscapes a pain in the ass work? Try getting paid for it after you do it.
And you have to chase people around that don't want to pay you.
Now I have employees that do great work, and so it makes me even madder when they do the work and then the customer doesn't pay me. So
because you're paying them no matter what.
I have a guy that's owed me that since we'll say July of last year, being conservative.
The $250, this guy you're talking about.
Right, that's right. And
Should
I
I
know.
pull him up?
Yeah, let's put him on blast. Let's see. There he is.
I don't want to say where he works because it's not the work's fault. So
Yeah.
I'm going to leave that out of it. But yeah, make sure that gets blurred on the screen where he works because I definitely.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, I'll blur that out.
But I went up there to just, I'm not a confrontational guy. I'm a pussy. Look at me. Does this guy look like somebody that can fight? No, he cannot. So I just went up there to say, hey, look, I'm a long play guy. If you want to fuck me like this, it's fine. I'll just make it to where anything you finance from here the rest of your life will be in your mama's name. Or somebody's. Like, it's not going to be in yours because I'll ruin your credit.
Over $250 because it's the principle.
You're right. I'm a man of principle. And I'm insane. And I have a lot of friends. Like, I'll do anything for anybody. And that's why when something like this comes up online, they go to work. And, buddy, so I made a post about the guy and immediately drove from my house straight to his work. And I sat down and I told him, listen, man, before we get started on any of this, I'm not going to be confrontational. I'm not going to raise my voice. You ain't got to worry about your boss being like, what the hell's going on?
We can take him off the screen, by the way. I feel like he's staring at me.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling guilty.
So as soon as I sit down and say that, he goes, you need to follow me right now. We'll handle this shit right now. And I go, oh, okay. In my head, I go, wow, that was easy. I'm going to get paid right now. He must have the cash in his car. So I follow him. We walk all the way across this lot. Then he walks into the next lot, and I stopped. I'm like, I'm not leaving the premises of where he works because I don't know what he's going to do.
We're not giving away location, but on a scale of like 1 to 10, how safe is this part of town?
Oh, not safe. I grew up here.
Like a 2.
I was born in this town, and I know it's not the place to be.
Okay, we'll say it's a 2 on that scale.
By the time it's dark outside, you need to be away from that town. We'll say it's one of those. There's a few check cashing places around. How many other signals can I give y'all?
Yeah, we got it.
Popeye's right down the street. Okay, so I get to the edge of the lot, and he pulls a piece out of his front seat and puts it in the back of his pants. And then now he does it. In all fairness, he doesn't aim it at me.
He wants you to see it.
He does not threaten me with it, but he definitely is being menacing. It's definitely a message. We'd be lying to ourselves if we didn't say he was trying to throw his dick on the table.
Right.
So he definitely pulls it out. Then he starts talking real mad shit, and I'm staying as calm as I am. And I was like, this guy's got a gun. And I look around the lot, and there's people shopping. I was like, he ain't going to shoot me.
Right.
He's dumb, but he ain't that dumb. And so I start chirping. It's so insane how I start talking to a guy that has a loaded gun probably in the back of his pants.
That's pretty wild.
Like, shoot me, man. I'm doing comedy and ain't figured it out yet. I got 3 open mics I'm trying to run that's drowning me to death in this. Just shoot me. Do me a favor, you piece of shit. Just shoot me.
This is the spiel you're giving him?
I'm giving him. I was like, you dragged me across this lot, you thug piece of shit. Shoot me. You don't flash a piece. If any of my redneck friends saw you pull that gun out of your car, you'd be dead right here on this sidewalk. My friends have been itching. They're just trigger happy. They can't wait for somebody to pull a gun on them. A former band member used to have one in the tour bus when we traveled around, and he was like, I hoped another one of our friends' band got robbed on their bus.
Yeah.
They came up on the bus with guns and stole all their money in the safe. He was like, man, my dick would get so hard if that happened to me. Man. He's like, I keep waiting. I've been on tour 7 years, and we had one person come up with this bus trying to rob us. It's going to happen.
He just wants to shoot somebody.
But I was trying to tell that guy, I was like, you don't realize how lucky you are. And by the way, I know your boss. I went to high school with him, and we're going to take care of this. So you're about to be out of a job, and this whole fiasco is now going to cost you so much more.
Man, that's crazy.
And I need to go to a therapist. I know what the comments are going to be like when I go back and look at this episode. I do, because it's $250, but I'm a man of principle. And you could screw Citibank if you want to. That's fine, dude. They can absorb that kind of stuff. But I've got a wife and kid to feed, and I'm trying to pursue comedy.
I don't blame you on going after it. I don't know if I would have gone the route of telling him to shoot me, but I can respect it because it is the principle.
It's just that thing when you're in a nightclub and there's 7 security guards in front of you. the kind of shit you said to
You're
somebody
just
that
chirping.
you know could beat the shit out of you. That's what I was doing. I know that there's too many people in this parking lot with cameras aimed everywhere, and he knows it too. He ain't gonna shoot me. He's just trying to intimidate me.
So when you went nuts on the guy, because that's the way I'm just imagining it by your reaction here, what was his response? Did he
I
slowly
said,
back away?
Yeah, I was screaming. Did you bring me over here to shoot me? He goes, no. I've calmed down now. I go, now? But you are admitting that you drugged me over here for some kind of interaction with a gun? And he goes, no, I've calmed down now. I'm a hothead, though. And I was like, oh, buddy, I know. I
There's
told you
two
from
of
the
them
jump.
here.
Yeah, I told you from the jump. I'm not here to fight you. I'm a pussy, man, but I will ruin your life long term. I mean, I'll make your life miserable. I won't kill you, but I'll make you want to kill yourself.
Right.
That's what I'll do. I'll have your life set up in situations where these people that attacked him online, like they didn't attack him. They just start making little wise ass comments that get underneath your skin.
They get on his page and start making comments.
Yeah, he's holding a pair of Jordans, and they're like, I know why you can afford these. They say something like, yeah, as long as you keep your foot down on the man's neck over there, you don't have to pay him. I guess you can buy new J's.
So what ultimately happened? You didn't get paid, I assume.
Here's the weird part. I go home and he's cash at me $100 and then ask for it back.
Wait, what?
I asked so many people, I go, is that some kind of move where if I give it back, then he's entitled to, like, what? It feels like a chess move,
So it sounds like he accidentally sent it to you. Like he was supposed to.
No, it says for your family.
For your family.
It makes no sense. There are crazy people out there, y'all. I'm telling you, there are crazy people. And now when I saw him do that, I go, oh, I should have been shot. When I said shoot me, he probably could have and should have shot me. Like, he's crazy enough to. Why did he send me 100?
And for your family.
For your family, and then it says user says he sent it to the wrong person.
Yeah, it sounds like he actually did send it to the wrong person. I bet you he did.
I made a big deal about I'm just trying to feed my family. I said that once. I said it 1,000 times.
Okay.
So it says for your family. I'll pull it up. I'll show you. It's crazy, man. Like, I don't understand. I thought it was some kind of ploy to where if I said okay to it, then he could
You
be
send
entitled.
it back and he owns your house. The deed to your house or something.
See, it says for your family.
And did you ever talk to him about that, or he just simply sent a request to send it
I
back?
told him it's the last he'll hear from me. But
So you recouped $100.
I did, but I'm still going after that 150. Believe what you want. Like, I don't care. I'll eat $25. That's where I've set my limit at.
Oh man, that's good. That's good. Any other situations like that with customers?
I've had people delete their pages on account of owing me money because
Really?
the smoke gets really bad.
What's the average price to get the lawn done for like an acre?
That is such a loaded question, dude. I've been screwed more by that. By
like,
a customer going, what's your average price? And then they bring me out to their football field yard, and I was like, real cute, asshole. This is real cute. Yeah, I'll do this for $70, you asshole.
So was this a guy that had been, like, had you come out to his house for a while?
He tried to act like I've never cut his yard once, and I've got correspondence for over a year of him. Thanks for cutting the yard. Here's the money.
So you've been doing it for a while.
Oh, dude, it was like, he goes, you ain't never cut my yard. I cut my own yard. I was like, oh, my God, this guy, man. These people out here.
Yeah.
That's why when I meet a guy like you and we gravitate towards each other, it's because we're not on this same social plane as some of these other dum-dums out there, man.
They're out there.
They're everywhere, man.
Yeah.
When you leave this place, it's terrifying the people you're bumping shoulders with.
Mm-hmm.
And when you come to my next open mic, just know if the next day you hear of a McDonald's getting shot up, be like, yeah, I kind of saw it out of one or two of those guys. Because it's everybody. It's funny, hilarious guys who get it that I click with. And then there's other clicks that they may never figure it out, and they may get it. I've seen some long shot. I've seen some dudes I would swear would never make it, and they are they're getting to the point where they're going past me, and that's really going to make me mad. I'm gonna be like, there's nothing fair about this game. Like, I'm telling you, it's just be funny. You can be mean. You can be a weirdo. You can be tough to hang with. Your job when you're on that stage, just be funny. That's all anybody cares about on a comedy stage. Don't care about your politics. Don't care about any of that.
Right.
Just be funny. If you're going to talk about politics on a stage like that, be funny with it.
Right.
And also be self-deprecating. Be able to admit no matter what side you're on, your side has its own issues. You know?
Right.
You can lean left or you can lean right, but let's admit they're both bad about eating their own and creating uncomfortable platforms for you to preach from. You know,
Right. There's so many things, and it's those topics that are so off limits or so polarizing. Like those are the ones to go after. Those are the ones that get the crowd laughing, even if it's uncomfortable laughing. Like they throw out January 6th jokes or whatever.
And that's funny.
Transgender, like that's good. I like that.
Right.
And that's kind of what turned me back on to comedy, because I felt like there for a minute, comedy was kind of losing oxygen, and I don't know if it was the downside of SNL or some of these other things. And I'm like, yeah, being politically correct or whatever is trying to kill comedy, and I don't know that it'll survive. But it seems like just over the past few months that it's kind of on the upswing.
Comedy does this dance where they walk that line and they push it this way and they push it that. They keep it moving at all times, and that's what's interesting about comedy.
Yeah.
What's cancelable? What's not? Well, if it's this funny, it is cancelable, but they made it so funny that you're like, I don't know. I don't think we can cancel them. I mean, it was that funny.
Yeah.
So it's like one of those contests to where it's a two-sided sword. You can live and die on it. But it is one of those things that pushes the line back and forth. And that's what's so exciting about comedy today is that it dances on that line and it pushes it back and forth. And without getting too political, do you agree with me that there needs to be at least a third party in this country, if not a fourth and fifth?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
What will that happen in my lifetime at 47 years old?
Probably not. Well, I take that back. The way politics has always been up until this point has always been kind of standard. You can expect the same things to happen, the same people to win, yada yada. Ever since Donald Trump came into the picture, everything has changed. All the old rules are out the window. So when it comes to, say, Trump wins this time around, I don't know what's going to happen in 2028. If there's ever been an opportunity for a third party at that point, I think it's highly possible.
God, do we need it?
Because everything's changed.
I don't know a dude that's on each side of firm. Like, I feel like everybody's right here. Do you not feel like everybody? Like, I feel like I don't want to give out my money to people, but I also don't care if my gay neighbor has a gun. Like,
Right.
Gets married and French kisses each other alone. Like, I feel like everybody's like that. Like, just be reasonable. I feel like they're so unreasonable on each end. And even if you just skew that way, they throw you in that corner and you're like, no, I'm not all the way over there and I'm not all the way over here. I'm kind of in the middle.
You see that happen with Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
and
he's a guy you cannot place. And
There's people that have stayed in the middle, but the whole picture has shifted over time. And it's really all shifted to the left. So the people that were in the middle now look like extremists on the right.
You're right.
That's exactly what's happened,
right.
Which is kind of good for those on the right that have kind of gone with the flow. Then they can actually be kind of more in the middle and say, yes, I want my guns. Yes, I hate taxes. I still love gay people just as I love straight people and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
That's kind of become the norm, but
there's your third party.
That's the third party. Could be, yes. Because the Republicans that have been in charge for so long, like, those aren't the people that are looking out for people like me and you. They never have. At one point, we may have thought they were, but they haven't been.
How do you get money out of politics?
What do you mean?
How do you get it out of there to where pharmaceutical companies can't dictate policy?
That's a good question. Well, the people that make that decision that would be able to pull the plug on that are the people getting money, and so that's the problem.
That's what got me disengaged from politics. I used to watch O'Reilly Factor every single day.
I still love Bill O'Reilly.
What's he doing now?
I think he's got a show on a new channel called News Nation, which, by the way, is kind of middle of the road. They got left and right programming on that one news channel.
Dude, if you're a news channel starting right now, you had best figure out a way to not be bought.
Right.
And still make it generate revenue, but not make it be from companies that can dictate what you report.
That's it.
That's the only way to be successful, because that's how that's how guys like, indie podcasts and stuff are going to take off. They're going to get traction because they're not affiliated and they're not bought by whatever.
You've seen a lot of that, even in the music industry. I've seen some artists. I think of the one guy, and speaking of politics,
the gatekeepers you're talking about are going away.
Right. And it's fascinating to watch. People are able to do it on their own because of the way technology is, social media and everything else. We're able to watch other podcasts and say, okay, this is the way to do it. This is how to build a podcast studio, or Joe Rogan. What kind of cameras does Joe Rogan use? Oh, he uses those. Okay, we'll use those, and just things like that. And you can do it on your own, and you don't have to have some, corporate financial backer to do it.
And another good thing about this industry is that guys that want to learn how to switch cameras and produce and do stuff, a lot of times if you're like, dude, I am obsessed with your work. I think you do great work. I really am. I want to learn how to do what you do. Could I sit in and you kind of guide me on how to do stuff like that? Most people I know, and when it be comedians or drummers or whatever, I've helped kid drummers that want to learn how to play. I'll be like, here's the things to focus on. Most people are so flattered that you like their work that they're like, you know what?
Absolutely.
I'd like to pass this torch on one day and show somebody else how to do it. And you'd be amazed at complimenting somebody that does what you like, what that will do for you and how willing they are to meet up with you solo and coach you and do it for free just because they see the passion in your eyes on it.
I know exactly what you mean because I'll have people ask to come sit in the radio station while I do the show, and I'm like, that's
I was
so
that
nice.
kid.
And
Robbie Rags and I-95, buddy. When I was a little kid, I would bring in Milo's. I'd bring in Milo's hamburgers and just sit and watch him do it, and I'd be mesmerized. But I thought I was cool as shit.
I think it's high praise when somebody does that, but I'm like, nah, I got too much anxiety. I can't have somebody else in the studio, so I never let them come.
Well, I was like a 12-year-old kid watching this grown man do it, but and that may have said something about rest in peace, Robbie Rags, the legend. He's probably like, why do you got 12-year-old kids in there feeding you burgers? What kind of
Here comes Chris Hansen again.
Now that I'm older, I'm like, that's a little alarming that my mother even took me. You know?
Oh, I had the same thing. You remember Nick Nice?
Yeah.
103.7.
Hell yeah.
My first experience inside a radio station, he would do Friday night
Cute.
guest DJ,
Yeah.
and he would invite a listener to come sit in for an hour from like 6 to 7. And I think I was the same age. I was like 12 or 13, and my dad took me up there.
Dude.
You know, Nick Nice could have been a murderer, but they just sent me up there, and I was elated. Of course, I got in there and I froze. I didn't say anything, but that was my very first radio stop.
But that assured you that you wanted to do it for a living. When you saw that, you're like,
absolutely.
I'm in.
Absolutely.
I'm in. And see him at a remote having girls talk to him, you're like, I mean, what can't this guy do?
Okay. Listen, here's what's
and now in hindsight, he's just a local radio guy. But, you know,
right.
Like in your eyes, you put him on this pedestal.
Oh my God! We come in and he's in this big conference room, and it's a big oak table, big fancy chairs. He's in there with cut off sweatpants, a tank top, and he's just mowing down a bucket of Popeye's chicken, like just, oh, what's up, man? You know, he's got all over his face and his fingers. And so we go in there, and then again, 12-year-old me is in here with Nick Nice, and about halfway through my appearance, two chicks that look like they came straight from the strip club walk in, and they're all hanging all over
and they
him.
Probably did, by the way.
yeah. And I'm just like, wow, this is it. This is where it's at. And so.
And you go back down, your parents are like, what was it like? And be like, I can't talk about it. There were strippers upstairs. What? They didn't get undressed. But they assured me that I'm going to do this for the rest of my life.
Right. This is where I'm going, baby. This is it.
He probably was the king down at the strip club, too. He probably left work, went down there, and they were probably like, we love you.
I'm sure. Well, the thing is like, I always wanted to be on 107.7 The X or a rock station, because back then, the people on the radio were just as big as rock stars as the bands they were playing. Mm-hmm. They were hanging out with the bands. The bands were coming to the studio. They were going to concerts, introducing the bands. And so that was always what I wanted to do. And then as time went on, things changed, and I wanted to do talk radio. But these guys were just rock stars.
Did you ever do... have you ever done just the DJ playing music on the station? You never done that?
No, and I wouldn't want to do it either.
Shit. Yeah, because they dictate everything you play.
Right,
There's that fight.
But that's what I wanted growing up. That's exactly what I wanted to do. And maybe it kind of evolved. I'm like, maybe I want to do a morning show like Rick and Bubba or something like that. And then it just straight talk radio. And so that's where I
You're comfortable filling time. You know how to talk right up into a break.
Yeah,
I mean that's a skill level of its own. But so is walking up music, knowing how long the intro is. You got.
I gotta say, I think I'm pretty good at that because I always hit the breaks, and Tony can attest. When we get up to the breaks, I make sure my last word is on that last note, and I just boom every time. I don't want to waste any time on that.
Yeah, his timing's it's really good lately. Yeah.
And I also have a hard time taking phone calls because I talk so much. I got so much to get out. You put in all this work to put a show together, and you want to get it all out. Like my show's 3 hours. You want to get it all out.
And if you get it out in 3 hours, my God, Andrew.
And then you have
go to a therapist.
And then you have You have people call in and they're kind of just repeating what you've already said. It's like, yeah. It's just you hate for your work to go to waste.
Right.
Plus-
And people that call in drone on, by the way. We've started taking calls on the pod
Yes.
lately, and we've had to dump 80% of them because they start a diatribe. We're like, hey, buddy, it's an advice line. Call for advice. And they're like, you know what? You were talking about fishing with your father. That reminded me one time back when I was a kid, my dad fell out of the boat and all that. And like they go. So yeah, that's funny. If it was a live call, that would work. But we're 6 weeks down the road when we play this. Air it. So we're going to bring back up an old conversation from 6 episodes ago. I was like, buddy, we just need current advice on what your wife's trying to do in the divorce to you or what, and you want to know what to do.
So would you have like an attorney on or something?
No, we just give shit advice. We're just not qualified to give it. We just offer it for free, It is free advice, and that's exactly what you get with free advice.
That's good.
If you want qualified advice, you go to a therapist, a lawyer, like you said.
Yeah.
Something like that. But, yeah. And so when you take calls live, you got a dump button?
Yeah, we got a 10-second delay.
Okay, so you have to use that sometime. People get.
Usually, it's.
I mean, you're talking politics. No doubt, some redneck gets heated.
Well, it's rare that I've had to dump and I don't have the ability to dump. My producer has to do it. But most of the time, when we have to dump, it's either because we ended up playing a bumper music that had a cuss word in it, or my producer.
What a rookie mistake!
I know.
That's your fault.
Well, again, it goes back to the music I listen to, but I'm playing stuff like Steel Panther,
Yeah.
Or the producer has left his mic on. John Bird left his mic on, and something messed up on the computer, and he's like, "Shit!" And, and then I have to pipe over to him like, "You got to dump that quick."
Hey, your buddy, you're broadcasting.
Exactly. Yeah. So sometimes it's my producer's got to dump himself, but
Well, that's part of it, man.
It's
I mean,
fun.
being a producer is not an easy job either. He's got his finger on all those cameras, and I wouldn't want that job. We record everything, and we do the switching. We have this technology at our podcast where it's AI technology. It's recognized each of our voices. And so as soon as one of us, it's kind of like a Zoom call. As soon as one of us starts talking as the dominant talker, it switches to that voice.
The cameras.
The cameras do.
Really?
And so you can go back and toy with it a little bit back in post. After undoubtedly, us rednecks get together, some stuff has to be taken out at some point.
Right.
Because you're just trying to fill an hour and a half every time you get in there. And there's a lot of talking over each other at our podcast that we've had to figure out. We've gotten good about it. But even lately, man, when we had all of Steel Panther in there, it doesn't come out till next week, I think. But we had all of Steel Panther, like the whole band in there, and 5 guys. There was 9 people in that room, and you could imagine the amount of like red light, green light that goes on conversation.
Yeah,
you got to choose your spots in that podcast.
Yeah, I can't. That's the one thing that I hate is like bringing on somebody that doesn't mesh well, and you're like sitting there rolling all over each other, like people talking over each other. And I'm like, oh. You gotta stop. You gotta learn. I've gotten pretty good at learning, when people are gonna start or when they're gonna stop and when to jump in. But if you got somebody that's never done it, like you obviously have done numerous podcasts, so you get it. But bring somebody in here that's never done it.
Live calls, same way too.
Yeah, they'll just railroad you. And then
there's a slight delay in cell phone
in the calls. Yeah.
Oh man, you can get in.
And so you just go back and forth.
But you can't get anything out.
It's bad. It's bad. Well, here's what we're going to have to do. I think maybe one of these upcoming shows, these comedy deals, or maybe that one at the Stardome, I'll promote it on the radio show.
Yeah.
And see if we can't get any traction on that front.
Because you know what we want? People are going to bring their own people to laugh at their stuff. We want a good audience that laughs at stuff that is legit funny.
Right.
Because if you go up and all your friends go up and you get up and do 5, well, of course, when you say anything, they're going to be
right.
They're doing that shit. So, like, we want a real audience for that event.
Right.
And that's why we're giving away tickets. If you use the X5 podcast promo code, we're giving away for free. That's up to 4 tickets for free, but you can use that promo code as many times as you want. So
Stardome.com.
Yeah. To get the tickets.
And click the event and X5 podcast promo code. Or just X5?
And that gets you as many free tickets as you want. We have to do that so he knows how to staff the room.
Right.
He doesn't know if 100 people coming or 400. And there's a different how many staff you put on the floor for each. So we have to have some accountability for how many people are coming. So that's why we're doing that. And we're getting
Nice.
Plus, we just want to make it free. Any event X5 does, we want to make it free for people if we can. So
We'll see if we can't just get you to swing by the radio studio when we get a little closer to that and promote it. So
absolutely, I'd love to.
Again, I'll try to work on my anxiety with having somebody else in the radio studio. But
dude, I want in the comments right now. Is this on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Okay, in the comments, let's leave a comment about whether or not we should roast Andrew at one of these open mics, dude. I think y'all roasting him would be great for him. And he obviously needs to go to a therapist just like I do. So I just want to have somebody that's going down on the ship with me.
I mean, I'm in the business of doing anything that will benefit, whether it's the podcast or the radio show. Okay. So if you think this will help out my career, I'll do it.
Now, see, I always thought we need to have a therapist here.
You definitely do.
Yeah.
You definitely do. And don't think you're wrapping it in an hour and getting all your problems out. This podcast has got a lot of issues to talk to a therapist about.
Yeah.
We'll have to go back and do some editing on that because on these right here, it's just one take Willie. We don't do any editing. We just shoot it and post it.
That's great.
So if we do the therapist deal, we'll chop it up a little bit.
Oh, no, they need to hear about your problems.
Take out the best problems.
He's got a divorce under his belt. He's got all kinds of stuff. I got a dad that killed himself when I was 12. How have I never gone to a therapist, dude?
That's a good question.
How did I land in comedy? For sure, it's because, every comic has something. They were touched. They were ignored. They were diddled. Like they were beaten. I was never any of that. I don't know. Oh, well, I guess I am ignored. My dad killed himself when he was 12. That's a pretty aggressive ignore.
That's pretty traumatic. Yeah. That's a big one.
I'll be ignoring you for a good long time. I'm out of here, buddy. See, we made suicide funny.
That's the beautiful thing about comedy. You can laugh about anything.
Man, I thank y'all for having me. This has been a great.
Absolutely, man. We'll definitely do it again and hopefully get you on the radio here. March 21st?
March 21st, stardome.com.
So that's not far away. We'll make it happen.
And did I fill the time that how long are your episodes?
We try to keep it at an hour. When we bring in guests, sometimes we go like an hour and a half and just whatever. We don't have time. We don't want to go to like 2 hours, but we just wing it. We got an hour 20. That's not bad.
We are perfect.
Perfect, baby.
Let's
go. All right, we're out of here. Thank you again, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys.
We'll see you soon. And until next time, circus.